Welcome back to the desk. By now, you know my one demand of you. Do not just read the news, learn to theorize it, because that single skill is what the examiner is paying for. This is the Sociology Desk, issue 015. Two events today, one from the streets of Belfast and one from a video call that emptied a pensioner's savings. For each, the concept, the thinkers, and the exact way to write it. Let us begin. Our first event is in Belfast, where anti-immigrant riots saw migrant homes set on fire, including the home of a Sudanese asylum seeker who held a valid 5-year permit. Where does this sit? Paper 1. Stratification, the dimensions of ethnicity and race, with a link to collective action. The weak candidate calls it racism abroad. You will read it as a precise lesson in social capital gone wrong. So how do you open? Not with outrage. Open with the structural claim. Dense community solidarity is not automatically a public good. In tightly bonded homogeneous enclaves, the very solidarity that holds the group together can curdle into a hostility toward the outsider when ties across difference are missing. That single sentence tells the examiner you are about to use social capital as a precise analytical tool, not as a feel-good phrase. Your anchor is Robert Putnam, and the distinction between bonding and bridging social capital from bowling alone. Bonding capital binds members of a homogeneous group. Bridging capital connects strangers across cleavages. Belfast's loyalist enclaves are textbook bonding rich and bridging poor terrain, and that is exactly where in-group solidarity converts into out-group hostility. Name Putnam, and you have located the riot inside a mechanism, not a moral failing. Two more thinkers complete the answer. T.K. Oommen draws the gap between citizenship and ethnicity. Citizenship is a legal political bond, ethnicity a cultural one. The asylum seeker held a legal permit, yet the rioters denied him membership of the cultural nation, the exact gap between formal status and substantive belonging that Oommen names. And Manuel Castells explains the speed, mass self-communication, a viral video, and circulated address lists turned a local crime into a transnational anti-migrant mobilization within hours. Three thinkers, one event, fully theorized. How to write it for marks. The 14-mark script condemns the racism and describes the riots. The 19-mark script opens with bonding solidarity, curdling without bridging ties, deploys Putnam's distinction as the analytical lever, adds Oommen on the citizenship-ethnicity gap, using the asylum seeker's valid permit as evidence, and brings in Castells on social media amplification. It can add Beck, that rioters displace diffuse structural anxieties onto visible migrant bodies as proxy targets. It closes forward. Integration requires manufacturing bridging capital, not merely policing bonded enclaves. The lever and the named mechanism win the band. Expect this. 20 marks, paper 1. In the light of recent anti-immigrant riots in Western liberal democracies, critically examine Putnam's distinction between bonding and bridging social capital. Hold Putnam, Oommen, and Castells, and the answer is yours in 250 disciplined words. Our second event is a crime that is also a sociology lesson. In the digital arrest scam, a deepfake video call presents a uniformed CBI or ED officer, fabricates an arrest warrant, and frightens the victim, often an elderly person, into transferring money to avoid custody. One retired teacher lost 5 lakh rupees this way. Where does this sit? Paper 1. Science, Technology and Social Change, and Mead on Self and Identity. The weak candidate calls it a cyber fraud. You will call it the hijacking of the self. So how do you open? Not with the fraud mechanics. Open with the claim that technology never enters society as a neutral instrument. It reorganizes the very relations through which the self is constituted. The scam does not just steal money, it steals identity by counterfeiting authority. That framing lifts a crime report into a paper 1 answer on technology and the self. Your anchor is George Herbert Mead, and the concepts are the self, the I and the me, and the generalized other, from mind, self and society. The self is a dialogue between the impulsive I and the socialized me. mediated by the generalized other, the internalized voice of the community, the state, the police. The deepfake officer counterfeits that generalized other, so the me complies before the reflective I can intervene. As Mead wrote, the self emerges only through the capacity to take the attitude of the generalized other toward oneself, and here that very capacity is turned against the victim. Two more thinkers deepen it. Anthony Giddens explains the trust being exploited. Late modern life rests on disembedded expert systems, the police, the banks, the courts, which we cannot personally inspect. So a credibly uniformed officer on a video call weaponizes our trust in expert systems. And Ulrich Beck names the larger pattern, manufactured risk, the very technologies engineered for innovation, deep learning and voice cloning, now generate threats that earlier social structures could not produce. Convenience becomes vulnerability. How to write it for marks? The 14-mark script explains how the scam works and warns people to be careful. That is awareness, not sociology. The 19-mark script opens with technology reorganizing the self, deploys Mead to show the generalized other being counterfeited, Giddens for the weaponizing of trust in expert systems, and Beck for manufactured risk. Crucially, add the Bourdieu counter. Digital risk is not democratically distributed. The victims cluster among senior citizens and first-time smartphone users with low digital capital. Close on the structural lesson, protecting the self now requires institutional defenses for the generalized other itself. That counter and that close are the difference between 15 and 19. Expect this 20 marks, paper 1. Quote, deepfake-enabled fraud reorganizes the very architecture of the self in late modernity. Unquote. Critically examined with reference to Mead and Giddens. Hold Mead, Giddens, and Beck with the Bourdieu counter, and the answer is yours. Let us revise. 1. The Belfast Riots. Read through Putnam's Bonding versus Bridging Capital, Oommen on the citizenship, ethnicity gap, and Castells on social media amplification. Solidarity without bridges curdles into hostility. 2. The digital arrest scam. Read through Mead's counterfeited generalized other, Giddens on disembedded expert systems, and Beck on manufactured risk. Technology reorganizes the self, and the rule that decides your rank. Treat the event as evidence and make the theory the destination. That brings us to the end of today's brief. Everything I have shared here is the thinking. The complete answer block for these events, the full model answers, the answer skeletons, the quotation arsenal, the flashcards, and the examiner notes is prepared every single day, and it goes only to our subscribers. If you want it, here is how. Leave your email in the comments or write to us at team@upscdesk.com and our team will share the subscription details. Let me be honest, it is a paid subscription, and it is paid for a reason. The quality, the edge, and the competitive advantage it gives you over candidates who cannot connect current affairs with theory. I wish you the very best with your preparation. And remember, the journey is long, and quiet daily effort is the secret no shortcut can replace. I will see you tomorrow.